Hello, good people of Earth. You've found the Nomad Rising podcast. I apologise for taking so long on making episodes. Try and be a bit more frequent. Now I'm travelling. I gotta, find that balance of fitting it in and putting that time aside. But I now find myself recording this intro in a little woods in South Somerset and working at a little community called Tinker's Bubble. And I suppose I'll come to that in later episodes. But this episode is with a friend that I've made called Andy in a little community I was volunteering at in Midwest Wales. I'm just going to be vague and leave the location there. But yeah, I was volunteering in this place, working with some lovely people, a small little community, growing some vegetables, chickens and turkeys. I was helping them build a round wood timber frame, straw bale little house. In terms of editing, I didn't want to have to edit the conversation. I wanted to leave it as its raw thing, but yeah, the people I'm going to be having conversations with, and quite often times intoxicated, and so some of the stories and things they're going to say and they're entrusted in telling me, there's a few things I'm just going to have to edit out for just because I don't want to get them in trouble. So there's a few little snippets edited out of this, but most of the conversation's there. And without further ado, the tale of Andy. Welcome to the podcast, Andy.
Hiya.
Alright then, give us a bit of a background. So you're from Essex, right?
Yeah, grew up in Essex. It's an interesting place. Pretty normal, boring suburban existence. Went to school, got a job, cut some grass, worked for the council, got very bored of Essex. Moved to London because that seemed like a good idea at the time. It's kind of where, sort of so nearby, so it's just where everyone goes if you try and escape.
Yeah. You got siblings?
Yeah, I got a sister. She's she doing now? She's 28 now. Off being a nurse up in Newcastle.
Yeah,
got
nice.
a proper job and doing all of that life.
Yeah. That's sweet. What sort of kid were you in school?
If it was America, I'd probably get classed as potential school shooter. It was we'd sort of kind of rock to army surplus wool trench coat and was quite into making fires when I was 15, shit like that. And I think probably these days I might have got a bit more of an intervention, but everyone was just like, oh no, he's weird, it's fine. Yeah.
So you moved to London.
Yeah. It was just, it's a place, there's people there, it's all big and exciting when you're young, Did that for, about 4 or 5 years? No. Yeah, 4 years. Just working shit labouring jobs, living in shit flats and getting drunk far too much. But it all kind of felt pretty dissatisfying, really,
Yeah.
It's kind of the knowing there's got to be something more, but not really knowing where to find it, and it was a good laugh, and but everyone was just getting more kind of basically growing up and getting all career focused and doing all that stuff. And then the kind of had a falling out with my boss about the same time as the rent was not the rent, the tenancy was up for renewal on the place I was living, and I was just sod this, I'm bored. And I just kind of just got all my stuff, well, a bunch of my stuff in a tent, and put it on my bike and was sod it, I'm just going to go ride my bike for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then
How old are you then?
24. Yeah, 24.
Yeah.
For some reason I went to Norfolk because I don't know, I just started going north and wound up in Norfolk, and yeah, did that for a bit. And then decided like actually Norfolk's kind of boring. Let's go south, and decided to go and like see the south coast for a while. But like on the way down there, I was in like Windsor, and there used to be this place called Runnymede, which it was like sort of an eco village, sort of like a bunch of hippies living in the woods kind of thing, and just like didn't even really know. I sort of knew it existed, but didn't really know where it was, and was just like sat by the river cooking some pasta and stuff. And these like two people who lived there were a bit like, "Oh, you're travelling with your bike? Oh, come hang out with us for a bit." And yeah, went and like hung out with them for a while. That was, yeah, it was an interesting place. There was a lot of like sort of interesting theories about crop circles in the Magna Carta was like kind of the predominant conversation there.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Was a setup.
so it was a big place. It was like must have been easily about 70 odd acres. It was like quite a steep hillside, all covered in woodland and stuff, and like it was I think it was a big old like university campus or like a big private school, and there was like at the top of the hill there was this like massive derelict like old sort of Georgian building thing, and there was just a load of folks like living in shacks in the woods there that they'd like, it was one of them was just built like out of doors. They'd like gone into school and nicked all the doors and then built a house out of it, and like various like cool sort of half-built earth ships and like all this mad stuff there. But it was a bit of a like weird time to kind of rock up at the place because they were like just in court for like possession order and eviction and things. And like basically while I was there I met a few people who told me about like some other places and stuff, but then like I just fucking woke up one morning and there were just fucking bailiffs everywhere, and I was like, oh fucking hell, this is interesting. I'm just like in the middle of an eviction. I was like, didn't really know what the fuck to do, or like how I even felt about any of it, or like wanted to be involved in it or not. Kind of had a bit of a run around with the bailiffs for a while. It was just like, I don't even know you people. Like, what the fuck's going on here? I was supposed to be like, had sort of half-baked plans to fucking try and cycle to Spain, and was a bit like, I'm just gonna leave now.
Yeah. What were you living in?
So I was just in a tent at that point. Yeah, just biking a tent in fucking various hedges. But it was quite cool. Like, met a bunch of interesting folk and was a bit like, oh, there's another life here, and I'm still going to chip off because that was kind of my plan. But yeah, this is kind of interesting. And then what happened after that? Then for some reason I cycled to Bognor Regis because Bognor Regis was just a place on a map, and it was like, the sea's there, let's go to the sea. Then what did I do from there? Went along the coast a bit and just like randomly ended up in Newhaven and was like, oh, okay, there's a ferry here, sod it, I'll get on the ferry. And then like sort of found myself in France with like, and like smartphones existed and stuff at this point, but like I hadn't really bothered to adopt smartphones. I'm just there with my like old little Nokia brick phone, and like a fucking, it's like a, like, you know, like the A to Z atlases. It was like an A to Z atlas of all of Europe.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's kind of alright if you're like driving cars down the A roads and things. You can find your way around, but it's just like me on a bike with a little paper map in a fucking country I don't speak the language, and like fucking no real plan or anywhere I'm going, and this map which like it didn't have all of the little small rural roads on it. It kind of have like the towns and the big roads that connected them, but I don't know, it sort of worked. And then what did I get up to in France? Lots of cycling, lots of getting rained on, lots of realising that France is actually really big. Like really, really big. I was just like, it's France, isn't it? Just because I was like, I'm already halfway across France if I'm in Dieppe. Like, I'll go to Bordeaux, go to Spain, it'll be fine. And no, this took a long time.
Yeah.
Like a really bloody long time, and a lot of getting lost. God, Le Havre. I never want to go back to Le Havre in my life. That, like, I might have seen the bad side of it, but it took me about 2.5 days to get out of that city, because like I not really know where I'm going, and it's like it's got a huge port and like a huge rail like freight yard and a big oil refinery, and I could kind of like go, oh, it's fine, there's a bridge there, I'll head for that bridge, and just ended up in this weird like no man's land of like the edge of a city where it's got like, it was just like motorways and train yards, and like the whole place smelt like tarmac as well because of the big oil refinery.
Yeah.
And just like, yeah, just lost in the rain trying to not get run over by French truck drivers. And then eventually escaped Le Havre after that. Pretty uneventful really, cycling from France, apart from I nearly got shot by French pig hunters. That was about one of the more interesting things that happened in France. So I'm like, you know, it's night time. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm just in some forest. I'll put my tent up. This is fine. And I'd seen like a lot of guys in like pickup trucks with loads of dogs. Like the last few days I've been cycling through this forest. I was like, oh, it's hunting season or something. That's fine. But then like, yeah, the next morning I wake up really early and I can just hear this horn going and loads of dogs barking. And yeah, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, stumble out of my tent. And yeah, like, and then basically there's like a load of dogs just come running through where I'm camped. And I'm a bit like, what the fuck's going on here? And then I hear like what must have been a gunshot. And then like about fucking 15 foot away, this bush just like goes like, and is like clearly been like shot at a pig or something in this bush while I'm still there in my like, and it's like, there's a little like hiking tent, it's like dark green and I'm in a fucking bush and it's just like, what the fuck? And I just like stand up and start waving my fluoro jacket about like, and then there's just like, yeah, these two old French guys with shotguns come strolling up just being like, saying something at me in French that I don't understand. That was like, obviously I think the effect of it was like, what the fuck are you doing? Get out of my forest.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, yeah, and then a lot more like fucking being lost in France, getting rained on in France. I found out that churches really good for sleeping in. This is the one I found out was like, yeah, because it was like at some point my sleeping bag and everything just got soaked and it was just raining for like a week, and then sort of found this like church which just had like a little church porch and was like, oh, I'll just go in the porch. Oh, the door's not locked. And then just slept in like 5 or 6 churches after that. That was pretty good. Yeah. Then sooner or later ended up at like the Pyrenees. Pau? I can't speak French, I don't know how, but it's really cool little town with like a massive waterfall and gorge and stuff in it. And then just found this like random found what I thought was like a pretty sensible road to like try and get through the mountains on, and I think I took a wrong turn or like lost lost my way or something, but I basically just ended up on like a 4-lane motorway on my bike trying to fucking cycle over the Pyrenees, which that wasn't fun at all. That was like trucks hurtling past me up a really steep hill and I'm just pushing my bike on the side of a French motorway, which was not a good idea. And at some point I find this little it's just like a normal country road is like a bridge of the motorway going over it, so I just chuck my shit over it and go down the embankment and then just sort of go, could like see the mountains on the horizon, and I was like, well, Spain's the other side of them, let's do it. And just fucking kind of went with like, I can see the mountains, I'm just going to keep going up them. Did that for a while. I'd like to say I cycled over the Pyrenees, but I really didn't. I walked whilst pushing a bike over the Pyrenees. And yeah, it was like the 2014. basically at some point I ended up on this road which it had loads and loads of graffiti on the road and like Tour de France stickers, and basically had found out I was on like what had been one of the mountain stages of the Tour de France, which is pretty cool. Just like pushing my bike up there for ages. Yeah. Oh, and this is in like fucking October as well, because for some reason I decided going travelling in like halfway through September was a good idea. Which was not a good idea because it's fucking cold in the Pyrenees. Yeah, it's really beautiful up there. Like, saw an otter, saw like huge birds of prey, like, and this beautiful, this big like cloudy pine forest going up and up and up, and then it's mental. You get to the top, and then within half an hour you're just in a desert. They're like, yeah, it just completely changes. As you go down the Spanish side because of like where the rain goes, I guess. What happened after that? Yeah, cycled around Spain a whole bunch. Fuck it. Oh, it was really fun coming down the Spanish side because it's just like downhill for so long, but like still really cold, and like I didn't have any gloves either. So like my hands are like freezing up, and like I can't pull the brakes on my bike while going down this really sketchy mountain road. And it ended up like taking my socks off and then like wearing my socks as gloves, trying to not fucking die. I nearly crashed into a cow as well because there was a cow in the middle of the road. Yeah, cycled round Spain for a while. It wasn't, it's very beautiful, but not that eventful. Just looked at a bunch of nature. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Chatted to a few like random Spanish people who were like, I don't speak Spanish either, so like they're just like pretty much what the hell are you doing here? You're in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, where are you going? And we're like, I don't speak Spanish, I don't know.
Yeah.
After that, then I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I should probably like go and deal with my life a bit now. So went up to Bilbao, got the ferry back from Bilbao, and then that took me to Plymouth or Portsmouth or something. When I was there, I was kind of like chatted to some folk at Runnymede, basically, which had told me about another site called like Yorkley Court, which was nearish by to where I was kind of going. So I was like, oh, stop in there for a while and see what's going on. And yeah, went to Yorkley Court, which was a pretty cool place. It was like big, so it's a sort of big like strip of regenerating woodland, which is like, I think it had previously been an open cast coal mine, and then it was an army base, and then it had just been abandoned for like about 50 odd years. And so there's just all these like scrubby willow trees and like these two big old kind of like corrugated iron, like semicircular, like army buildings, like the sort of hangars you get. And then, yeah, a bunch of other folk living in the woods there. And like that was, yeah, I kind of just planned to stop in there for a couple of weeks to like see what was going on. And then it was like, yeah, it was a good place. Like the politics there was very good. It was like, it kind of, so a bit of the backstory of it was that it was part of a larger farm, which the owners of the farm had died without any heirs, and that like it had just been kind of left in this weird legal limbo, and a bunch of folks had gone there to squat it, kind of as like kind of the focus of it, or the reason for squatting it was kind of like around like people's access to land and sustainable living, and like yeah, like kind of trying to do the peasant thing essentially, but like it's not really possible in this country because you can't, like, without a lot of money you don't have any access to land, and that was like, it lined up a lot with quite a lot of my personal politics and like beliefs and things of like things should be done small scale and more community based and things. And like, yeah, and when I was there,
were you like still 24, 25?
Yeah, I think it was 25 by that point. Yeah, I think it was, yeah, I would have been, because September birthday. Yeah, so yeah, yeah, all of this is quite a short period. Oh yeah, quite a short period of time. Then yeah, they were kind of again fighting eviction at that point, and it had been there'd been a few attempts at eviction. And they'd used to have the old farmyard further up the hill, but had kind of moved further down. There'd been an attempt by the kind of weird, corrupt local kind of semi-coke dealing businessman who'd like bought the farm, but sort of not bought the farm under some like really weird legal grey area off a corrupt solicitor that was supposed to be looking after it. And he'd tried to evict previously, and basically had failed because people had defended it so well. So yeah, got like quite involved in that and quite like yeah, let's fucking fight this one. We can probably win it.
Yeah, I saw a video on YouTube of a Yorkley court eviction. Where they're trying to go in and
yeah,
and they all got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, it was fucking good fun. yeah, Christ, and like some quite good defences there and things. Again, yeah, just sort of, yeah. This was, what time was it? This would have been like January time by then. I was there for Christmas actually. I think I got there in about December, and it was about January time, and I was like. My tent at some point had completely like disintegrated basically and was just no good. When I first moved there, I was staying in this like old blue ridge tent which wasn't really waterproof anymore, but you know, it was all right. I had like a tarpaulin over half of it and it was on a bit of a hill, so I'm like staying in the tent and you know, it was fine. But when it rained, the rain would get in, but it had all run to the low side of the tent, and that was kind of fine because I just slept on the high side. There was a tarpaulin, it was great, but there was a puddle, and the puddle was really fucking annoying. But on very cold mornings, the puddle would freeze, and then you could pick the puddle up and throw it out the door. That was all right. It wasn't great, but it was all right. And yeah, I mean, it's like thinking back on it now, I have no idea what the fuck I was playing at. Like, I would not live in like a situation like that. Well, maybe I would if I had to, but like, yeah, I think there was a good communal structure, and you know, hot food and a warmish living room and a big wood burner, and you could dry out. And I think like that kind of makes it possible living in a tent like that. But yeah, it was yeah, it definitely made it. And like there was interesting people around, and fucking you could have a good laugh. Yeah, that made it very good.
Yeah, what was Yorkley Court like? Like, most of you guys were all there. It's become now a legend to me now. Yorkley Court is.
It's just I don't know how to really describe it. I've had vague. I suppose I've given you a like explanation of the like more physical side of it. It's quite ideologically varied from some people who were very ideological, like very, very political, to kind of other folk that were kind of like, just like, well, where I was just passing through and ended up getting caught up in it. And then other folk who just kind of had become kind of quite burnt out and tired because of like living in that kind of situation is very tiring, and like the sort of level of like physical like sort of survival needs are very tiring as well, because we were, you know, there was no electricity. We had solar panels, but the solar panels could like provide you about 4 hours of electricity, and this is December, so it's basically like one candle in the middle of the living room. After that, there's no phone signal, no running water. All of the cooking, all of the heating, all of everything was just off of firewood. We had to go and collect the firewood from the forest as well, which was, I mean, that was one really good advantage to it, was surrounded on 3 sides by Forestry Commission woodland on all the sides, so you just go for a walk with a bow saw and get yourself some firewood. That was pretty good.
How many people were living there?
Oh, it really varied. When I was there was about 35 people, I'd say. Yeah. But then towards like around February, it went down to about 10, 15. And from what I heard, in the summer there was like 60 odd people there at times, and like, you know, and a lot of folk passed through, and a lot of folk, kind of like would stop in or like have wider networks and things. And a lot of folk had just come for a party as well. And
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, simultaneously really, yeah, it was a good laugh, but also like sometimes a bit disruptive, but there's nothing wrong with that in it. It was a big enough place that like people could go off to their own place if they needed to.
What were you doing for cash?
I had a little bit of money from when I'd finished work, which was just kind of managed to eke it out, and like wasn't really spending any money either, you know, because my travel was all on my bike. Wasn't paying anything for housing. We got like most of our food was coming from like, wow, from the garden, from foraged food, and also like lots of skipping as well. So yeah, you know, going to Waitrose bins, going to the supermarket bins, and getting all the various leftover goodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd all just like eat communally.
Yeah. It was kind of it was a communal dinner done every night, and then there was like a cupboard of just help yourself to the food cupboard. So that was pretty good. It got like, you know, there was various points when things would get a bit low, but like not. It was never starvation mode or anything, but it was a lot like, oh, this week we've eaten parsnips for every meal because we've got a lot of parsnips and nothing else. And stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah, I basically wasn't doing a lot for money because I didn't need to. And, yeah, basically the only thing I spent money on was beer, basically.
Yeah.
Which definitely made things easier. And then, how did that go? Yeah, like... Yeah, basically, well, as with all squats, eviction time came round sooner or later. And yeah, that was like, I don't know, I felt quite a connection to the place by that time. I was like, no, I'm going to fight this one. And yeah, so I'd actually had just got some work the day that the eviction came, which was really fucking annoying. I was like 30 miles away doing some gardening, and just started and got a call at like 10 in the morning and was like, oh no, right, yeah, shit, the bailiffs are here, like, let's go back, let's see what happens. And yeah, and like basically by the time I'd managed to get back, they'd kind of caught people unawares, because like we'd sort of, you know, we'd have morning watches, and we'd have like, normally when the bailiffs come, they come early in the morning. These ones came at about 10:30, 10:45, and people were all in the front field in the garden doing gardening, and like it basically meant that people weren't able to get to the defences that were in place and things. Like quite a few folk resisted and did a lot of things, but like they sort of claimed to have evicted the place by about 5, 6 in the evening. There was still folk on site, but it was like the classic one of like, no, you're evicted now, like to fulfill their paperwork needs. And that was an eviction company, a bunch of bailiffs, and the police involved in that one. So yeah, what happened that night? I again went onto site and had a bit of a run around, but there wasn't like a lot to be achieved while there was about 45 bailiffs on site. But then that night, we'd all kind of like set up a camp in the woodlands for the people that were living there to go to, and kind of, you know, went to the camp, had a bit of a chat, had a bit of a Sebi strategized, more of a just sort of chaotic shouting. And a few of us were like, well, they're not there now, let's fucking go back. And they'd kind of, most of the proper defences they'd smashed down, and they'd ripped the barricades out with a digger. They'd like a lot of the tree houses had been taken down. Like most of the points we'd built as defence had all been taken, but there was one of the big army buildings that was there. It was like about 3-story high, corrugated like iron hanger type structure, was still standing, and there was about 7 or 8 of us, I'd say, went back in, and we like occupied the hangar structure in the night. We barricaded the doors closed, and there was a ladder which you could get up through the middle of it onto the roof of it. And yeah, so then we're in there, we lock ourselves in for the night, and like the next morning we kind of wake up and there's like, what's going on then? it was all kind of quiet and there was no one around. And then a little while later, there was kind of there was some bailiffs and some security guards with them anyway. And like quite a lot of like random workmen and a dumper coming along, I think, to like try and continue clearing site and destroying our homes and things. Because they'd gone round with a digger and smashed everyone's homes flat, but they hadn't really cleared anything up. And during the night, people had been going back on and like salvaging useful things like the wood burners and good tarpaulins and like personal possessions and stuff. Then sort of right. So I don't really know how to explain this without. Basically, there were security and bailiffs coming onto site. Various things happened. They then left site very rapidly. And we were like, great, well, we've got it. We fucking got the place back.
Yeah.
And for like the next 6 or 7 hours, like there was no one, which was like, well, let's fucking crack on. And a bunch, like by this point, a lot of our friends from further afield were arriving, and there was like, it must have been about 20, 30 people all back on site, and we were like, sort of a combination of trying to build new barricades and also try and salvage the like what we can and the useful things. And I remember one of the things was like we had this game called Zombicide, and it was this really cool like co-op board game which had become a bit of a like weird cult of long winter evenings. And there was like the sort of communal building that it was in had been like smashed with a digger flat, and there was like this kind of, it was corrugated iron with 2 brick walls, and so myself and my mate had like kind of a bit like potholing style like slithered our way in between the layers of like corrugated iron and brick into the remnants of the kitchen, and like mined out this fucking like remnants of this board game, which actually one of my mates I think has still got that board game, which is quite cool. Really good board game actually, if you want to like, if you fancy a cooperative board game based around zombie survival. It's a good one. Anyway, what happened after that? So it was kind of all quiet for a while, and it was like a nice sunny like spring morning where everyone was just kind of like sat around drinking the homebrew that we'd also salvaged out of the communal. And then, then basically like the cops show up. And it wasn't just like the local Forester Dean police, which you can kind of tell them to fuck off because there's only 4 of them and they can't be bothered. There was about 80 odd cops in riot police, like in full riot gear. And they even had the fucking armed police there. Yeah. There was like, they had like full on like submachine guns and these big black shields and shit. And there was like 5 or 6 armed police, and they came in and like basically everyone that was up for resisting, we all pulled back to the hangar that was there, and kind of everyone got back onto the roof because it was like a bit like, you can sort of fuck the bailiffs off. We're not gonna be able to get rid of the armed police, are we? And then it ended in this weird sort of standoff where everyone's like on the roof of this hangar, completely surrounded by a big ring of armed police, just sort of like sat there going, well, now fucking what? And that's kind of how that went for about 3 or 4 hours while we're getting more pissed on the homebrew that we'd salvaged. And what happened after that? Then basically a lot of time passed, and eventually they brought a digger in, and I think they were from Bristol, but it was like a police climbing team that were trained to like climb and get hippies out of trees, basically. And they started like trying to make moves to evict the site, and so there was a few like of the defences still standing. One of which was like a big net slung from the like inside of the roof of the hangar, which me and my friend, we both got into that because it was like, well, it's there, we might as well be in it. And I was actually one of the first people to get evicted off of the site the second day because they came for the net first. So it's a bunch of people all sat on the roof, and we're just chilling out in this big hammock basically, and they they come with it's a fucking huge digger, and just like rip the doors off the hangar while we're in there, and like come in with the digger. And they hadn't told the digger driver that we were in the, like, the cops were in there, they knew we were up there because we've been talking to them, but they hadn't told the digger driver that we were in the net. And he's like scraping around, clearing all the crap from below it, and there were these, like, for some reason we had a load of cow bones, and people had tied cow bones to the bottom of the net with rope, and one of them caught on the arm of the digger, and as he's pulling, it like starts fucking pulling the net off of the roof, and it's like, you know, it's basically like football goal nets is kind of what the material is. It's not particularly strong stuff, and it's only tied on in 4 or 5 places.
Yeah.
And it's just like, see it stretching and starting to rip while I'm fucking like 3 stories up above a digger. And it was a bit scary for a while. Then I did a lot of shouting, and the digger driver was like, "Oh shit," and chilled the fuck out. So like, to get us out of the net, they got this like giant orange bouncy castle type thing, basically, and like rolled it out underneath us. And this like this police climber, he like comes up on the bucket of the digger, and then like attaches himself with ropes all to the roof and things, and like very carefully climbs like up, and then it's kind of like gone to the far end of the net, but there wasn't really anywhere else to go. So I just like wrapped myself up in a big cocoon between like a couple of layers of the net, and just was like, I'm just going to be as tangled as I can to be as fucking annoying as I can to you. They tried like fucking bending my thumbs back and pressure pointing me to try and like get me out of the net, and it was like, well, that's kind of, they gave up on that after a while, because they was just like, mate, I'm really fucking tangled in this net, I actually can't get out of it. So then he spent like 25 minutes with a pair of really crap scissors, like trying to cut me out of it. And at some point his scissors broke as well. It was a pretty comedy experience, basically, because I'm just like ripping the piss out of this cop. She's like, for fuck's sake, have you not got the budget for like decent scissors and stuff? And then that's go and find him some more scissors. And then like, yeah, and eventually they like cut me out of that. And then they just cut a fucking hole in the main net, and then just like pushed me through the hole into this big fucking bouncy castle thing. Yeah. And then I got jumped on by about 5 cops, and yeah, then I went to Quedgeley police station, and fucking hell, Quedgeley, I've been arrested a few times. That was the weirdest one. Like, you get this weird like fucking police station butler, basically. There's like, you know, when you get nicked, you get taken in by the police that have nicked you. They take you to the desk and they do all your details and everything, and then you get taken to a cell. With this one, there was this weird guy in like, this really bad like sort of pale green polo shirt. It was a bit like, oh yes, come with me, sir. Now, oh, we'll just do your height, and it just felt like a sort of weird kind of concierge butler-esque situation. I was like, what the fuck are you, and why do you exist? Like, yeah, and then, I mean, just, yeah, that's getting nicked, basically. It's just really fucking boring. You just sit in a cell for a while, and eventually you get out, and sometimes you get charges, and sometimes you don't. Yeah. And then, yeah, that was, basically at some point we got out and went back to where a bunch of the other folk from site had all set up a camp in the woods. And we'd, yeah, and then we kind of drifted around just living in spruce plantations for a while. And
were you with any of these guys?
Yeah. Most of these folk were here, actually. Yeah, there was... Yeah, basically fucking everyone except Dave, who lives here now, was doing the same thing. Yeah. And we'd... Yeah, okay, so previously there'd been... an eviction of like some new age traveller types that were living just on the other side of the forest from us, and we had like, you know, doing similar things. Like a lot of them like were mates with them, basically, and they'd got evicted off of a site in this town called Cinderford a while previous, and a load of us had gone down and like helped, like, didn't really do a lot, but just like stood around, and there were some numbers there, so the bailiffs couldn't try and take the piss with them too much. And like, yeah, and then that was actually a funny little side tangent. Is so after they'd got evicted off of the first site, everyone from there, they all drove in convoy to the local council offices and parked up in the car park, which was very funny because there's like, there must be about 10 or 12 big traveller lorries all parked in a fucking car park of the local council while they're all like locking the doors and like fucking shitting themselves and looking out the window. And then there was this weird like hilarious standoff between like someone coming out and being like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, you evicted us, so we live here now. Like they had no intention of ever staying there, but it was just to try and annoy the council. Yeah. It kind of ended basically with the council were like, we really want them out of our car park, and they had this council owned, it was like an old council depot or something, and they were like, look, just go there for a few days till you get sorted, it's fine. And it ended up with someone from the council giving this like sort of dreadlock tattooed traveller woman a pair of bolt cutters to go and cut the fucking lock off of a council depot, and a little letter of permission to do it, which was fucking hilarious. But anyway, as a result of that, they didn't want to live in the council depot anyway, so went and took a new site, which was like a bit further away, but it was quite a big site and they had a lot of space. So yeah, they knew we'd been evicted and they'd been down to try and help out, but there wasn't like a lot to be done. And they kind of were like, look, we've got a lot of space. Do you guys want to kind of come move on to our bit? Like, yeah, so a bunch of us then moved on with them. And yeah, it was quite a cool site. It was like, it's the weighbridge yard of an old coal mine. So it's like right in the woods. Big lump of tarmac, then down onto like a big sort of like muddy turning circle area at the bottom. And yeah, we all moved on to there, and like they had a reasonable amount of space. So yeah, everyone just went there, and kind of a lot of folks just kind of hung out for a bit. And there was quite a lot of like trauma and like people not really knowing what to do, because there'd been a very strong sense of community and a very like yeah, like strong sense of connection to the land at Yorkley Court and things. And it was a bit like, yeah, a lot of folk were quite fucking upset about it basically, and kind of hung out there for a while. Yeah, and like a lot of folk kind of gradually drifted away. Like the folk that were more, I don't know, a lot of folk wanted to go back to the city, a lot of folk had other places to go and things, and then like a bunch of like, yeah, I'd say 7 or 8 of us, I think in the end, maybe a few more, ended up staying. And we kind of like, yeah, I've got a fucking like, got a lot of respect and a lot of gratitude to fucking like the new traveller people in this country, because they fucking sorted us right out. Because we were like, you know, we were kind of a bunch of like chaotic squatters who could kind of like live out of the bins and fucking go and squat a bit of land somewhere, but like weren't like, I don't know, were quite like, no one really ever had any money, no one really ever had any like sort of security, or like no one really had a vehicle or anything or any like that, which made life very difficult when it like we became more unstable and didn't have a like long-term site to be on. Yeah, they helped us out a lot, and they sorted us out with like work connections. They gave us a caravan to have as a communal space, and like also just fucking put up with us being like fucking irritating like young lot getting pissed and fucking doing chaotic things. Which was like, yeah, a lot of fucking gratitude and respect for that. And like, well, we were there, I mean, those of us that stayed long term were there, we're about 2 years on that site in the end. And kind of like gradually, because it was quite a like definitely different communities and different ways of life at the beginning, but it kind of all merged into one. And like, yeah, it was quite good. It took quite a while for it to happen, but yeah, it was good.
How did that place function?
It was a lot more independent. So it's like everyone has their truck or has their caravan and has their tow vehicle, and people are a lot more independent and like not necessarily reclusive, but like keep to themselves, cook for themselves, sort themselves out. and then like will hang out of an evening and have a fire and socialize like when they feel like socializing, opposed to like every dinner is together. Like we think about like I feel like it's a lot more of a sustainable model, to be honest, because like the kind of it's very intense living in communities, and I think that level of like independence and autonomy is really good. I think it functioned a lot more like a traditional village than kind of the like we're going to do a commune bit, because there's a lot of have seen and have heard of a lot of madness that comes from the commune bit. I need to take a piss. Oh, how long do you actually want this to be as well? Because that is the thing with podcasts, isn't it?
Go on as long as we want, basically.
Nice one. Cool. Ready to start again?
Yeah.
So, Weybridge site. What else happened at the Weybridge site? I mean, it was a pretty interesting place. Like, definitely learnt a lot there. Learnt a lot more of like a much more sustainable way of living on the road, I think, and like actually tying travel and employment. That was like something I've always done since there, was like, you know, rather than travel, you know, get a job, earn a load of money, and then travel and just like burn your money and eventually have to like go back to getting a job and a flat and all of that crap. And I'd like pretty thoroughly decided I didn't want to do that by then.
That's what I'm trying to figure out right now.
Yeah. Seasonal work all the way. It's get paid to travel. It's a good one. Yeah.
So what sort of things would you do then?
First one I started doing was like festival work and litter picking, and like it's really good laugh. Like, I mean, it's also bloody hard work and fucking grim a lot of the time, because you are just like picking up rubbish all day every day. But you know, I was already like well into getting my food out the bins, so just like sort of furthering my rubbish based sustenance was that was definitely good. I did that for how many years? I'm still doing it. Like, how many years have I done that now? It's like getting on 7 years, I think. I've worked for, worked doing festival waste, and started off the first year, I was just like litter picking away, you know, you just get in a big old line, put everything in a bin bag, and like, you find everything you could ever need. Christ. Like, I mean, the first big job I did, I had this fucking haggard old transit van at the time, which I'd worked like all summer doing like odd jobs and gardening and like a few little festivals, and just about scraped together enough to get this completely fucked old transit. I rammed it floor to ceiling. Like, it wasn't converted, it wasn't a live-in or anything, it was just floor to ceiling with random shit. Like, some of it, you know, just like pallets, about 50 pairs of like low quality walking boots, like about like the thing was so overweight. I was like, if I'd got pulled over and put on a weighbridge, I would have just lost my license, because I just filled it with like tinsel and muddy cans of Foster's. That was great. That was and that would have been I did that for the first summer after Yorkley, like bounced around doing festival work, and then that winter like didn't really have a lot on, and we just kind of hung around the woods at that point, and like we went a bit I don't want to say feral, but like people were like, we were getting really into archery and like making bows and things, and like we'd found these so there's wild boar in the Forest of Dean as well, which are these like hefty wild pigs, and like every now and again one would get hit by a truck. And this was fucking great, because then you end up with like 150 kilos of beautiful free range wild boar. And like, we just get like, I think that first winter we had 3 wild boar between like, it's probably about 20 odd people, 25 people living on site. And so about maybe 15 of us were meat eaters. So at some point we'd end up like, someone would just be out driving or out walking the dog and find a roadkill wild boar. And, then we'd like butcher it, and God, we like it just became like this weird gluttonous like fucking oh yeah, it felt very like old timey basically, because we sat around like a fire under a tarpaulin with this like shonky A-frame made out of trees and this old flappy tarpaulin that's like gone black with the smoke of the fire, because that was like the communal space we had, just eating ridiculous lumps of pork, because like no one's got a fridge, no one's got like access to any way of keeping it. We tried a few times trying to smoke it and salt it, and it always just went fucking grim and green. So it just ended up as like, someone's got a boar, and then the next like fucking week or so was just trying to eat as much meat as you could before we inevitably had to go and bury it in the woods. Yeah, that was funny. This was earlier in the year, but there was this mental Czech guy called Damien who came to stay with us. And he'd like... Basically, he'd found an owl that had been hit by a truck. And like the owl was like... it was still alive, but it was obviously fucked. It was going to die. And we were like, look, Damien, take it to the vets, man. It's a fucking like... They'll sort it out. And he's like, no, I'm going to help the owl. I'm going to heal it. I'm like fucking... he was trying to look after this owl, and he was fucking nuts. Like, and everyone was a bit like, I just don't want to get involved, to be honest. Like, just good luck to you, mate, but that owl is fucked. And then like fucking one morning I wake up and it's about 8:30 in the morning, and I find Damien fucking barbecuing this owl, which had obviously died because it was gonna die, over a fucking fire made from blue pallets. And it's like, we're in the middle of the woods. Like, we're surrounded in like one of the biggest forests in the south of England on like all sides of us. And for some reason he's found a blue pallet, and that's what he's using to cook this owl instead of just getting wood from the forest.
Yeah.
And it was just a very weird scene to wake up to, was a fucking mental Czech man fucking barbecuing an owl at 8:30 in the morning. Oh, whilst drinking vodka as well. Yeah. And he used to sleep like... He didn't have a vehicle, he didn't have a tent, and we offered him a tent and stuff, but he just got a tarpaulin and like a duvet, and he'd lay the tarpaulin and duvet on the ground and then like roll himself up in it like a Swiss roll, and then just fucking sleep in that. And like just like in the bottom of a bush. And then one day and then he was just gone. Oh no, there was some other folks that came with him who were a bit fucking like not funny mental, like kind of bad mental, and we had to tell him to leave, and he ended up going with them, and I never know what the hell happened to him. I wonder sometimes, but like, yeah, he was an interesting bloke. Yeah. That's anyway. Where was that before that? Oh yeah, the fucking festival work. Yeah. Yeah, good laugh. If you want to get out of your house and find a lot of people that live itinerant lifestyles and more connections for seasonal work and things, and like people that actually live on the road properly and like earn their living and have done it for years and years, I'd go and work Festival Waste. Like it's good. You learn yourself a good paycheck. You won't need to buy anything. Like some of the big jobs, they last for like 2-3 weeks, and you won't spend a penny the whole time you're there. You come away with money in your pocket and all the free beer you could ever drink, and like you'll meet a lot of very interesting, a lot of very sound people.
Yeah. And you get to go to the festival for free as well.
Oh yeah, you get to go to the festival for free. And the flip side of it is, it makes you fucking hate festivals, and it makes you fucking hate everyone that ever goes to a festival.
Yeah.
Like seriously, I keep doing it because I fucking like the job and I like the people. But my favourite part of a festival now is when they turn the music off and everyone goes the fuck home, and it's just like me and my mates and the rubbish, and then I fucking enjoy myself. But yeah. And then whatever happened after that. So yeah, and eventually, Weybridge site got evicted, as all sites ever get evicted. And we actually moved to the other end of the town, to the site that the folks that before we ever lived with them had been living on before they moved to the council car park. We just moved back to the same place. And they're still there to this day. And it's coming up to, I think it's coming up to the 4th or the 5th anniversary of us squatting that site.
Nice.
And they're still living there. And I think the fact that we fucking went and caused the council a bit of hassle just made them decide to leave us alone, basically.
How did the Weybridge eviction go?
We just fucked off.
Yeah.
It was like, it wasn't worth fighting for, basically. It was just a bit of concrete in the woods, and that's another that's another side to the like the kind of vehicle based thing, is like your home has wheels, opposed to your home being, because I think like that's the one with squatting is like sooner or later they always come. Whatever you do, no matter how hard you fucking dig and no matter how hard you defend, they're always going to come sooner or later. So if you've got wheels, like, yeah, you lose a bit of concrete.
Yeah.
You lose a bit of concrete, maybe you lose a job because you've got to move out of the area, but like, you've still got your home. You've still got your little island or your little lifeboat or whatever it is, but it goes with you. And like, yeah, it's a fucking, yeah, the new police bill that's coming through and like outlawing the fucking, yeah, people living on land in vehicles is bad. It's really fucking bad, because like, it's a nomadic way, like it's a continuation of a nomadic way of life that has been around as long as people have been around, and it's one of the fucking like, it's one of the freest and one of the fucking like, I don't know the best word, I don't even know what word to use, but like, it's something innate in humans is that like people do, like some people will want to live transiently, and like, yeah.
But, yeah, humans were nomadic, weren't we?
Yeah,
We'd move around. You don't stay in the same place. You go from site to site. Resources get scarce if you stay in the same place for too long.
Yeah, innit.
Yeah.
It gives you. I think they don't like the. I think they don't like the freedom people have, because it's, if your home has wheels, and you know everyone, like basically everyone who lives like that, they all work quite hard, and like, if your home has wheels and you've got money in the bank, if your boss is being a prick, you can just say whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, like, throw your water butt in and go 300 miles away and find a new job.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
I think they don't like people being that free.
This thing that's gone through, it's a bill, and again, bills and acts, they're not laws. Okay, I'm sure the police, and eventually it doesn't work out that way, but I'm pretty sure bills and acts, they only work, like, they're only act as laws if they have the consent of the governed. So if you don't technically agree with that,
Yep.
it shouldn't officially have any effect.
It should, like, there's what should officially happen, and there's what happens in practice,
sure.
and like, you've got to try and, I always found the kind of, the only real, well, until it becomes, that's hopeful, but if it would become a mass movement and a mass refusal of things, you have power in numbers. And this is something I say to anyone who wants to go and like live in a vehicle is, don't fall for the fucking hashtag van life or the fucking pretty Instagram pictures. Like, make yourself some friends and fucking do it together, because like, you're vulnerable on your own. You're like, you can be moved on. You're always trying to fucking look over your shoulder. It's different. And if something fucking breaks, if your van breaks down, or if you fucking, some shit happens, like, you're on your own. Like, fucking make some friends and do it together. Like, you're strong in a group. You're not fucking, like, no one can be an individual.
Yeah.
It's like, you gotta like keep your shit together and keep mobile and like, yeah, look after yourself, but also like fucking, yeah, be part of a wider group and realise you are part of a fucking long tradition of people living and moving and working, fucking like living that way. It's not, basically it's a fucking good thing, and it's a powerful thing, and like,
especially when you're up against the mafia of the police.
Fucking that one basically is like, you will fucking end up getting a lot of hassle off the cops. And and also, don't be fucking apologetic either. Don't fucking like, don't hide away and try and like have this stealth van that no one knows you're there. Like, And I fuck you, paint it rainbow colours and fucking have 4 dogs in your water butt outside. And like, yeah, this is me. And like, I'm a fucking valid person and I've got an important role to play in this fucking world. And like, just try and normalise it. And yeah, it's a fucking... I don't know. But also I like to be quite fucking provocative sometimes. So it's not always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I think it'd be hilarious to watch that cop try and untangle you from that net.
Yeah.
They get a lot of sark, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. I was not supposed to tell you about a few of the other times I've got nicked, because like, it's not like, never aim to get arrested, because that's just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It's just fucking boring. Like, you know, sometimes it happens and you're in a situation like where you can't avoid it, but like, yeah. So one time I got nicked for skipping. So I'm like, you know, hiding away in fucking Waitrose. And like, you know, get me like, oh, bagels, yep, trifle, yep, 4-pack of beer, yep, wonderful. And like, so it was the Waitrose in Monmouth. And like, there's a camera basically, and like, we'd done that Waitrose loads. And the camera, it normally looks at the bridge, but it can tilt, and sometimes it looks up the high street. And you know, to get into it, you could either slip under the gate or you could climb over the back wall. And like, the back wall was a bit of a pain in the arse, but there was no camera. But the front gate was like, you could squeeze under it and that was fine, but you had to always check the camera was facing to the bridge. And I kind of just got a bit lazy and complacent, and the camera wasn't facing to the bridge. So there's me and my mate are in there, like, filling up our backpacks with fucking frozen chickens and pizzas and all of this, like, wonderful bounty of the Waitrose bins. And then, like, we're kind of like, we've got out and we're walking back to the car. And, like, actually, I even got into the car, sorry. And we got into the car and fucking, we're driving out of the car park. And 3 police cars came, fucking screaming round the road, like proper fucking, like, bad 80s cop film style, with all the lights blaring. And there's like 2 of them fucking like do this weird like swerve outwards and block the road in front of me while one drives around behind. They come like running over him and like, take the keys out, put your hands on the wheel, and like proper giving it aggro. And it's just like me and my mate are in the car just fucking like in stitches laughing, because it's like, this has got to be the entire of fucking Monmouth police force are out to deal with like a couple of fucking hippies taking frozen pizzas out the bin.
How dare you take food we're gonna throw away?
Yeah. I never found out what it was that they thought I was doing, but like, they were just like, what are you doing? And it's like, just skip him, man. Look, frozen food, all out of date. Like, well, not even just, but I've got a car full of fucking out of date Waitrose food. What? And then they were like, we were fucking laughing so much. And they like, and they first started trying to like give us an on the spot fine, and they were trying to get our details off of us, and like, my mate at the time didn't want to give him his details, and all of this, and like, we were really taking the piss out of them. I mean, like, we probably wouldn't have got arrested if we hadn't taken the piss out of them so much, but there was definitely the phrase, I'm pretty sure he said something along the lines of, we found some donuts earlier, how about I give you those and we can all go home? And like, yeah, we got nicked. And they fucking, they impounded my fucking car, and they took it to Crickhowell, which is sort of South Wales, fucking miles away from where I were. They took me and my mate to fucking Newport police station. And we were like in Newport, and like, because they were proper, like, they were trying to wind us up because we'd fucking taken the piss out of them, basically. And yeah, fucking like, they just like being really aggro the whole driveway there. And I get there basically, and the like custody sergeant, the like guy on the desk who's kind of like in charge of the cells and stuff, he's just like, they've what? Why have you brought them here? And he's just like, all right, just like, yeah, just get some sleep, mate. And like, yeah, fucking spend the night in Newport police station. Fucking, again, really fucking boring. Just sit in a fucking box for ages, like, going, yep. And then you get a really disappointing fucking, like, cup of tea and a kebab box full of cornflakes in the morning. And they do, and they would not believe that I wasn't on heroin. This was the, like, thing that came out in the morning. Because I was like, yeah, I was cycling a lot at that point, and I was, like, quite skinny because I was doing a shitload of exercise and living outside. And I was also quite dirty because I was living in the fucking woods. And Newport's got quite a, like, big drugs problem. And they've just, about 5 or 6 times, they were like, look, come on, like, you're not going to get in trouble. We just want to give you some help with your addictions. They just wouldn't fucking believe I wasn't on heroin until, like, about fucking 10 the next morning, some random, like, nurse, I don't know, anyway, some medical person who's something to do with the police station, like, they brought a fucking crack and heroin test in and tested me. Was like, oh, you're not actually on drugs, okay. And then eventually they let us go, and we fucking, got the car back. That's one time. Yeah, and then, actually I've only been nicked 3 times, actually, and the other time was just when I was fucking really young and got kicked out the pub. Then fucking climbed over the back wall of the pub, fell off the back wall of the pub because I was shit-faced drunk, and went face first through a table with an off-duty cop sat at it. So that didn't go well. But yeah, I'd kind of got a bit of a taste for fucking doing protest site stuff at that point, because winding up police and bailiffs is fucking funny, basically. And then got involved with this site down in Surrey called Leith Hill, which was they were trying to drill an oil well in the middle of this fucking, like, area of outstanding natural beauty in the middle of a forest in the fucking Surrey Hills, which is like, didn't know there was fucking oil in Surrey, and, like, what are you playing at trying to do an oil well there? So we fucking, anyway, it's like, it was a pretty cool setup. There was this, like, giant fucking pallet castle thing, essentially, that was, like, built on where the drill site was going to be, and I went down there a few times, to kind of hang out, help build defences, like, that kind of thing. Did a bit of tunnels, did a bit of tree houses, that sort of thing. And then I'm just, like, back at home in the Forest of Dean, and hear, like, oh shit, the bailiffs have come, and there's, like, a few of my mates are inside the pallet castle, and, like, we're like, well, we're not, fuck, but we go down anyway, and it's just a weird standoff with them inside the fucking castle, and, like, kind of surrounded by police and security, and a few folks the other side of the road, just, like, seeing what's going on. And they're about 4 in the afternoon, maybe. We wait until about maybe 2, I don't know, it's probably about 1, 2 in the morning. Me and another mate, we go fucking sneaky through the woods, sneaky, and, like, fucking, we snuck well too hard. Basically, we went, like, half a mile down the road, and we're, like, fucking belly crawling through the woods to, like, sneak up to where the fucking, because they did have security in the woods walking around, but, like, security are fucking useless in the woods at night. Like, they have a head torch on, and they just stay on the paths, and, like, as long as, like, you can see exactly where they are because they've got a head torch, and as long as you just don't go on a path and, like, see where they are, you can sneak up on them. And we fucking, eventually we fucking get up to the fence line and, like, go fucking running in and, like, climb over the wall of the castle, and then fucking, like, get in there. And and then it's like the next day, and the folks that are in there, that were, like, our friends, were a bit, like, fucking, like, obviously pretty shaken up, because they're like, what the fuck's gone on here? They're, like, really on edge because they're halfway through an eviction, and we just come fucking, like running and climbing over the wall of their castle. And I just remember, like, this guy, I won't name him actually, but this guy's, like, there with a fucking bit of wood, like, at first, like, what the fuck? It's like, oh, you're right, Andy. Yeah, you're right. It's fucking, that was quite funny. And then fucking, we just get, like, sit around for ages, and eventually they, bailiffs try and come in, and then there's a few towers with folks in it, and people doing that, and then I'm in a lock on the floor, which is, like, lock-ons, they're basically like you get a big heavy thing and you lock yourself to it in a way that makes you very difficult to get out. And then they spent probably about 2.5 hours, tried like 3 hours maybe, trying to cut me out of that because it's a big old lump of concrete with my arm inside it, all padlocked together. And in the process of this, like while they're doing that, the head of the fucking like eviction team, which is there's a really weird group called Specialist Group International, who's like their main day-to-day work is they do like mine rescue and like confined spaces rescue, and also like forensic diving, but they've got this little like sideline in evicting protesters.
Yeah.
And fucking like basically the head of the company comes up and he's like, yeah, you've done a really good job on this one. It's just fucking really funny because there's like the bailiffs are always really fucking aggro, but there's just like random sort of like guy who just looks like sort of a member of like the Ramblers Association or like a fucking like they are basically all potholing nerds. Just coming up being like really chipper and being like, oh, I really like what you've done with this. Oh, that's the best tunnel I've seen for years. Like, I'm really fucking chipper. And it's like, anyway, right. And then get the fucking angle grinder out. Yeah. And fucking got in the Daily Mail for that one. That was quite funny. Yeah. That's the most fucking, that was the fucking last proper protest site stuff I've done. I've dipped in and out of it a bit since then. And like, yeah, if anyone fucking, like, if you find that world appealing and interesting, like, get yourself to one of the anti-HS2 camps. They're like, there's good folk there and it's a fucking good fight. And like, I am old and tired and can't fucking hack living on sites full time anymore. But like, yeah, if you want the fight, or even if you don't want the fight, if you just fucking want like that sense of purpose, they need all sorts of people. They need people who want to fucking do dramatic things. They want people who'll fucking make cups of tea. They want people who can just talk to people and be reasonable and like just like it's you never fucking the inertia to try and go and join these things is very difficult, I think. And like I spent fucking years sat in my bedroom bored as fuck, knowing that there was another world out there but not knowing how the fuck to find it.
Yeah.
And like, just fucking go, basically. Just go. Like, fuck the plan, fuck the long term, just like pack a bag and fucking go. And like, basically find yourself like, you work it out on the way. And the best advice I can give someone is like, just try and find some work that doesn't like tie you down. Like, see a work with a finish date, you know. If you like, fuck jobs because you just like people, they feel like they own you after too long. But a job like, or blocks of work like going doing apple picking, doing fucking fruit picking, working the festivals when they still existed, and fucking they should be back next year hopefully. Like, the massive shortage of staff in the events industry at the moment, so
yeah
if you want to get into it, now's a good time. Or well, next season's a good time. Or tree planting as well. Tree planting is a fucking brilliant one. That'll keep you employed through the winter. What else? I suppose like this place and how the fuck we ended up here. My ex-partner, like, she had a bit of inheritance money, and had been wanting to do something good with it for fucking quite a long time, basically. And we'd had like all these weird fucking amorphous plans of like, oh, buy land, do this, do that. And like, we looked around fucking, Jesus, we spent like 2.5 years, 3 years maybe, looking at different bits of land and trying to just be like, can we live here? Can we make this work? Can anything, like, we looked, like, we went to France, fucking looked all around the south of France, like, we went to Scotland, we've been to fucking Devon, we've been all over fucking west of England.
And where were you staying at this point?
A few different places. Like, this is when we were living, like, Forest of Dean. We also, we lived in Reading for a while. We lived in France for, like, 6 months. 6 months, like 3 months, maybe. Just bouncing around different places and projects. Because, again, if your house has wheels, it's fucking easy to go. Looked at some fucking ridiculous things. Yeah, and just like tried to buy a lot of places which just weren't. I don't know. There's like, what did I even try and buy? Tried to buy some fucking woods in near to Swansea. It was like 25 acres of like nice woodland on the side of a valley, which we thought maybe we'd get away with living there. And then like, you know, we'd put an offer in on it and we were getting everything like together. It was probably going to happen, and we find out that there's a tree protection order on the entire of the woods, and that like it pretty much, the whole plan we had was to start a coppice based like firewood and charcoal business, as to be the planning blag that had let us be there. And it was like, well, that's fucked. Great, that's not going to happen. Tried to buy an old orchard in Hay-on-Wye as well. That was a really nice place. It was 6 acres of old orchard with a field and some nice big polytunnels, like down by the river. It was a very pretty spot. But yeah, again, we just fucking massively outpriced on that. Looked at like, Jesus Christ, we looked at so many fucking fields, so many fields, so many bits of woodland, just like traipsing around the countryside, walking like halfway up mountains to be like, well, this is shit, let's drive 4 hours home.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but then we found this place, which was like, it just sort of came out the blue, to be honest. We've been like looking for so long, and it was like, oh wow, that's perfect. That's actually like, shit, we can actually afford it. It's fucking perfect. But it was going for auction, and like the guide price was like, oh shit, we could just about afford that. And like we almost didn't go, because it was like, it's too good. It's just gonna get, because we've tried to buy things at auction before and they'd gone for like fucking 100 grand more than the guide price, and we're just like, is it even worth the fucking drive for the auction? We're probably not gonna get it. And then yeah, fucking it actually happened, and here we are now. It's
let's just say Ceredigion.
Yeah, Ceredigion. Very, very nice part of the world. Yeah, very good. It's nice. It's far enough out of the way that like there's a very different vibe here. It feels like you know, keep your neighbours happy and don't take the piss and just get on with your life and you'll be fine. Because like we're still taking the like, we got 2 neighbours and we get on well with them, and like no one seems to mind. I'm getting on pretty well with the folks in the local town, like making a lot of friends and links. Everyone's getting work locally, and yeah, like I said, touch wood, we seem to be fine here. And yeah, it's nice. It's good things.
What was it like when you got here?
Oh, fucking hell. So fucked.
Yeah.
So fucked. There was like, Jesus, when we first got here, so the whole of, basically, whoever had done the house clearance, their version of doing a house clearance was drag all the contents of the house and the barns, and like, if you've ever been on an old farm, like, there's just sheds upon sheds full of random shit. And they just dragged it all into the yard and then burned it in a pile. And there was just like, everything was covered in fucking ash of like molten plastic and like fucking partially burned newspapers 20 foot up a tree, and fucking like just ran like nails and fucking half burnt sofas, and like, because it had been empty for years since we before we moved here. Yeah, and there was no roof on the back of the house. It was like an old asbestos fucking like corrugated stuff roof, which had all collapsed in and rotted through in the bathroom. And we got when we first moved here, I remember getting like there was a big ash log basically, and getting like pushing the ceiling back up as best I could, while getting my mate to fucking just wedge the log in there to fucking like and like that just is what held the ceiling up for about 2 years. And we were still like, we cleaned it out, we unblocked the drains, and we got the bathroom working, and we put a big tarpaulin over the whole of the back of the house, and that was just like just no one touch that fucking log. Basically, like, if you touch that log, the roof's coming down. Yeah, and there's no floorboards in, like... Sorry, all the floorboards had rotted through in, like, the front, like, in one of the bedrooms at the time. So we had to replace all the floorboards in there. The plaster was all falling off the walls. Like, yeah, we fucking then knocked all the plaster off, replastered it all, fucking knocked down, like, the old roof off of the back of the house, rebuilt that roof, replastered it, re-insulated it. Yeah, Sonia made new windows from scratch out of oak, which is fucking badass. Like, yeah, did all of that. Painted the thing. Fucking, it didn't have any indoor plumbing, so we had to replace the. Oh god, getting in the well and fucking digging the well out. That was special. It was like our water comes from a spring and it goes to a big system down in the woods, and there was the old water system basically, which we just about managed to get it like bodged running again when we first moved here. And I'd say about the first year was just every single piece of that water system breaking one after another. It's like, first the pump had blocked, so you'd have to go out in the middle of the night, like in fucking January, and like in the fucking woods with your like up to your elbows in fucking icy water trying to unblock the pump so you could have a bath, or like, or not even have a bath, just so you could have water to cook dinner. Yeah, like fucking having to dig like about 400 odd meter long trench to relay an entirely new pipe because the old pipe would just burst continually, redoing all the fucking electrics to it, like. But yeah, finally, after replacing every single element of the water system one by one, we have a tap in the house. It's great. Yeah, fuck. What else was funny in trying to fix this place? Oh, so we bought a Rayburn as well to put in the house to, like, you know, as a big wood burner to keep the house warm. It's got an oven, it's got a hot plate, but it's also got a back boiler on it, which will do your hot water. But we got the fire before we'd done any of the plumbing or any of the time to, like, to actually have the hot water tank plumbed into or anything. So for the first winter, we had basically the back boilers on them. If you don't have any water in them and you burn the fire, it burns through the steel and fucks the back boiler, and it then won't be able to make your hot water anymore. So we had to, like, fill it with water. But the problem with this is, as soon as you put the fire on, the water in the back boils and it just jets steam into the kitchen. So the solution we came up with to that in the end was to get, like, I play around with making, like, dodgy homemade whiskey and rum basically, and I've got a still. So I got the big, like, copper spiral condenser off of that still, and we'd put it into the back boiler. And it would just condense the water coming out of it again, so it wasn't steam, at least it was water, and it had just run into a bucket, and that was okay. But eventually the water level in the back boiler would all boil down, and you'd have to fill it back up with water, which would then involve having to like get a cloth or like a towel, put it round the big riser pipe which comes out the back boiler, and then very carefully pull the fucking pipe for the condenser out whilst it jetted like fucking red, well, like fucking probably about 200 odd degrees, like pressurized steam water out, and try and catch it all with a towel until it stopped doing that, to then be able to pour more water back in so it didn't boil the fucking so it didn't burn the back boiler out. And yeah, that was the solution to having a fire and an oven for the first year. That was that was a bit special. But yeah, now we have plumbing and a hot tap and a fucking bathroom with a hot tap in the bath, and like, oh Jesus, yeah, that was good. They're probably the more interesting fucking ends of DIY fixing this place. Yeah. I got electrocuted a few times by the dodgy electrics, but that's that's largely fixed now. Yeah, it was very like, I quite like, yeah, whoever had lived here before us, I quite like it. They'd been very very DIY. Everything was just like fucking just extension leads into extension leads into extension leads to like get power to all the barns, and fucking like just fixing roofs by just like putting a sheet of plastic on it with a rock on it and all of this stuff. It's yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
What was the land like? Like, you got some like veggie patches now.
Oh
and stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
Chickens and turkeys.
Yeah. So, well, when we first moved here, one of our neighbours was renting the 2 fields off of us. Oh well, off. There was a pre-existing arrangement to rent the 2 fields up until March time, maybe. And we've got in total we got about 5 acres. So there's like about half an acre. Yeah, it's probably about half an acre of sort of woods, sort of large muddy ditch. It's really beautiful in the summer when all the bulrushes and all the wildflowers and the bog myrtle and everything come up in there. I think it's bog myrtle. I can't fucking remember what it's called. Anyway, really beautiful in there. But also just like this time of year is just a swamp. Yeah. Terrible, cold, wet swamp. Yeah. And then there's a couple of there's the house and the yard, and then there's a couple of fields which I'd say total about 4 acres between them. So when we first moved here, it was like just it had been sheep pasture for years and years and years, and like was, you know, just pretty standard field of short grass with some sheep in it. Yeah, we've just been gradually doing more and more with the land. Like we're getting through it now with there was the big old the old kitchen garden for the house when we first moved here as well, like which was kind of 6 foot deep in brambles with just those sort of remnants of a completely fucked old greenhouse and loads of plastic plant pots which had disintegrated in the sun and gone into the soil, and like fucking rolls of barbed wire and all the shit of the world. And gradually the first like winter when we moved here, because the sheep were still in the fields, so we couldn't start a garden in the fields until the rental agreement was up and the sheep had moved. We just smashed all the brambles down by hand, fucking dug all the roots out, found we had like about 7 or 8 really nice old apple trees in amongst all of this, which were like massively overgrown and really needed pruned back, and sort of getting that all back into work now, and got it back to being quite a productive garden now, and then extended that garden onwards, started a new big patch of garden up in the back field, put a new big polytunnel up there. There wasn't a polytunnel before, but a lovely big polytunnel up there. We perhaps went a little overboard with the growing in fucking coronavirus times, to be honest, because like while everyone else was doing like panic buying, we kind of did a bit of panic farming. And fucking, I don't know, we're a bit like some weird fucking crossover point between being like back to the land hippie types and also kind of fucking survivalist types. And there's it was a bit like, oh, is this actually the end of industrialized capitalism? Right, we need to grow fucking 1.5 tons of potatoes. I think we probably managed about 500 kilos of potatoes in the end, but fucking hell, we had a lot of potatoes. And as a result of that, we've now possibly got a bit more garden space than we actually need. But and then we got chickens and turkeys, and doing pretty well at the poultry these days. Definitely getting sort of reliable eggs, and they seem to do quite well on the long grass as well. Like we move them, they're kind of electric fenced in to like a reasonably large area, both with like movable hutches. We move them around the grass, and they feed on the insects, they eat a lot of the grass, and then they they squash the grass down and fertilise it with their crap, and then we move them onto new areas of grass once they've done that. And you can see the areas we've been running the poultry on compared to the areas that we've kind of just left alone. The like difference in fertility there and the difference in the rate of growth of grass is amazing, which is kind of be to expected really if you're just covering something in shit quite a lot. It's really interesting all the life that's coming up in the fields now. Really like loads of bloody planted about 400 odd trees, I think. Planted a bunch of hedges. Yeah, sort of vague ambitions to get a couple of sheep at some point in the future. And I think once we've done that, that's probably fucking time to think about trying to get more land. Or, or make the things we're doing more efficient, because that is actually, didn't, like the first year we were here, it was just like, oh fuck, what the fuck are we going to do with all of this then? Like, when there's no way we're going to grow this much veg, and then, well, there's no way we need to grow this much veg as well, because like no one's really got an interest in being a market gardener, but we'd largely just want to feed ourselves and kind of have access to nice, tasty, organic, healthy food. And, like fucking more, be able to afford it as well, innit? Like, there's not that many areas now where you can't find access to good fucking wholesome vegetables, but it's fucking expensive to eat as much as you want to, and if you got space, start a garden.
And how did all you guys stay together?
Sorry?
So all you guys were from Yorkley Court, pretty much?
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
And like, were you basically the main crew that sort of stuck together throughout, or were there other people that came and went?
Yeah, there was a lot of there's been a lot of folks come and go actually. When we were first looking at trying to start like another land project, there was there's probably about 50, well, more than that, there's probably about 20 odd people all quite interested in doing it, but there was a lot of very varying ideas in what people wanted, like from some people kind of wanting to start like completely like revolutionary fucking like back to the land fucking like sort of neo-peasant type things, to other folks that kind of just wanted a nice little cottage and a horse, and then other folks that were like wanting to start kind of like a very family-centered, almost like sort of semi like co-parenting type setup, because there was a sort of group of folks all having kids, and they seemed to be a lot more family focused, and trying to reconcile all of these things with each other, it just sort of like, it wasn't really gonna happen, but we tried for quite a long time to make it happen, and that wasn't we fucking learnt a lot in the process of doing all of that as well. It was good, and like a bunch of the folks who've done that have gone off to other things now as well, which is cool. In fact, I think found things that like suit them a lot more actually in their needs. It's good.
I mean, considering the setup and expectations of this sort of place, like, you're all grounded people. You're not airy fairy hippie types who's or I don't know, did you have all those sort of people around and they all kind of filtered out and stuff, or?
Yeah, kind of used to be one of those people.
Right,
It's just, I think like having a bit of like, I don't know, time between deciding houses were shit and like starting a land project. I think that was quite good, because it kind of like kind of disillusion. Do I mean disillusions? Illusion. It gets rid of a lot of your like perhaps more like I said, airy fairy illusion type things about the like, oh, it's all just gonna be fucking picnics under an apple tree and beautiful sunny days. It's like, no, it's fucking hard work, but like it's like, it's for every like beautiful summer's fucking morning in the garden eating fucking fresh veg, there's like there's a fucking winter night of trudging through the mud with a gas bottle. Like, it's it's fucking a kind of, it's certainly, you just switch, this is always it, I think you're just switching one set of problems for another. Like, you don't ever get away from having fucking life being difficult, I think, but instead of having like, your landlord's a prick and you're trapped in a job you fucking hate, and like, you've got to deal with fucking all of this bullshit fucking world of living in a city. You just have a different set of problems. Like, fuck, I need firewood. Fuck, I've got to sort the garden. Fucking hell, I've got to go and deal with the chickens now. I've got to do this and that, and like, it's like, but at least they're a lot more. They're problems you can solve yourself, you know. yeah, they're things, or like, it doesn't have to be yourself, but like within like a group of people, you can kind of cover all the bases normally, and you can put your head together or like put your back into it and solve these problems, which if you're trapped in a job you fucking hate, but you have to stay there because your landlord's a twat, like, you can't really solve that by just going and hitting something with a hammer. Yeah.
And so how do you're run, like, you've all got your own things going here, you've all got your own jobs, you do like work days on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go talk about the forest, and you get you got some sort of deal with the sort of...
Oh, the firewood.
The firewood.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We just fucking didn't realise this when we moved here at all, but we are just on the edge of a community woodland, which has got you can pay them a certain amount a year to cut your firewood from the forest and get like a coppice plot, which is that was really bloody handy, because we didn't know what we were going to do for firewood, and then just realised that was on our doorstep. That was really good, actually. Coming to West Wales was realising that like there's a lot of projects and there's a lot of folk doing things out here that you don't realise, or at least you don't, we were reasonably like networked and reasonably into people into sustainable agriculture and all of that kind of thing. But until we moved here, we didn't realise that there was so much going on and so many like people doing similar things. It's very, I don't know, it's almost like, I don't know, yeah, people keeping it on the down low a bit, or people just getting on with it and not really bothering to like publicise things, just fucking living basically. And it seems to be good things happening out here.
Which is a lot better, I suppose, for sure. And what are you doing now for work?
Landscaping. Yeah, it's fucking, same old. I did that for quite a few years, 8 or 9 years before I ever fucked off living in a house. And then kind of with when the corona came along, it fucked the events industry and it fucked the tree planting and a lot of the seasonal work, and I just was like, oh god, what am I going to do? And then got back into doing the landscaping and construction again. So it's, it's all right. It's a paycheck. Work with sound folk is a bit of variety, but I do get itchy feet a bit, I want to go off
I bet.
Want to go off and chase the seasons again. Which is I should be off tree planting in Scotland again this winter, I think.
Nice.
Be a good one.
Nice.
Do mad shit on mountains.
Yeah. Bring your caravan along.
Yeah, see if it makes it there. We need to make the brakes work first. It's a long old way.
Yeah. And then you all just pitch in a bit, is it? And then got a bit of communal money and
we pay we pay rent to the co-op, which we then use to spend on things for the co-op, which is nice. That's been a really good way of doing things, actually. Is like being able to just like, oh, we want to build this thing, or we want to do this thing, or this thing needs fixed. Oh, we've actually got money to do it, which is really nice. And it's like, compared to normal rent, it's really not very much. But between a few of you, it certainly adds up, and like, it's meant we've been able to like do the work we've been able to do here and turn it round. And because I think like trying to do a place like this on your own, unless, well, I don't know, if you come if you've got money already, or if you're like a person who's got a good job and can earn the money, like, I think it's well doable. But we're all pretty like we're all pretty skilled, but not really skilled at earning money, basically. So it's good to try and do it all together.
Oh, sweet. It's been an hour and 40 minutes.
That'll do.
Good place to wrap up.
Nice.
Cheers for doing this, Andy.
That's all right.
That's good.
Right, how do I take this off? Oh, you pinch it. You don't just...
pinch it. Well, my head was absolutely pounding in the morning after that conversation. Hopefully I should get a few more episodes with some of the other people who used to live at Yorkley Court. Any feedback or criticism upon whichever platform you are listening this to would be much appreciated. And I'll play you out with this little jam that I had with some of the people at this Andy's community. Enjoy.
How does your dad keep his spoons from slipping?
In the
Thank you.